So, hello everyone. Welcome to Microsoft Ignite MEA local connection session with today's topic, rolling out Azure Arc-enabled data services nationwide. Microsoft's cloud vision was initially under the pillar Intelligent Cloud. Then this vision merged with Intelligent Edge, where we started expanding compute and the capabilities of Azure to edge locations. Then we accomplished our task on ubiquitous computing as we managed to bring cloud automation, governance, scalability, and platform as a service offerings to any infrastructure. Bringing cloud native services like AKS to legacy environments, managing multi-cloud platforms, even hosting environments via a new control plane called Azure Arc, created demand from the market. And with all this flexibility, hybrid cloud became a strategic pillar. It was even more strategic for Turkey as several companies with cloud native approach were not be able to use public cloud services so easily as Turkish government announced data protection law regulating the flow of personal identifiable info, especially in some industries. So we started getting demand from our customers regarding a real hybrid cloud environment where they will aim to have a unified experience for all their workloads and resources, whether they are on Azure, on-premises, or even other cloud environments. A strong demand came from our strategic account, a Fortune 500 company, Koç Holding, as well. And Koç Holding includes several child companies from different industries like energy, manufacturing, automotive, and consumer goods. And with our Azure MSP expert partner, KocSistem, we initiated a hybrid strategy together, starting in Koç Holding and expanding. The strategy that we will discuss today includes data center modernization with Azure Stack HCI, modernizing applications via AKS, and data estate modernization with Arc for Data Services. So here with me, Firuze İlköz and Sönmez Hazar from KocSistem and Mesut Alada, our CSA from Microsoft. So I may start with you, Sönmez, describing, regarding KocSistem's vision. Can you describe it and the business KocSistem is leading, and as Microsoft as a whole? How do we help KocSistem fulfill its mission and this vision?
Thank you, Junaid, for the opportunity. To start with, KocSistem and also OPET is a part of Koç Holding. And Koç Holding Group is the only Turkish company among the world's top 500 companies according to Fortune Global Ranking. KocSistem is the leading IT company operating in Turkey, and we're currently developing our own products and services, and also we're offering integrated solutions ranging from data center to IoT and data analytics to our customers in Turkey and in the region. According to brand value evaluation surveyed by Brand Finance, the most reputable brand evaluation establishment, we recently ranked as the most valuable brand, IT brand in Turkey. And some words about Microsoft and KocSistem relationship. Microsoft is one of our oldest partners in this business, and we've built up many businesses through the years with Microsoft, and we appreciate Microsoft focus on Turkey. To be able to provide a holistic approach, we're working together closely with Microsoft, and we even see Azure as our fourth data center. As a final word for our mission in this IT business, we actually position ourselves as the trusted advisor of our corporate clients in their digital transformation journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sönmez. So, Firuze, about the server portfolio that you manage, how many servers you have or cores in on-premises, in the cloud, in Azure, and surely you feel to be, facing some challenges. And does Azure Arc simplify or change the way you do things there?
Thank you, Junaid. We are currently managing more than 10,000 servers, and more than 8,000 of them is on cloud. So it is difficult to monitor and alert, manage the alert mechanism with this large amount of servers, and it is a challenge. And we will be able to monitor and manage this whole infrastructure using Azure portal and with Azure Arc. So it will be a great benefit for us, and it will simplify our operations.
Thank you, Firuze. So Mesut, how can Azure Arc actually help our customers in Turkey or partners, and the benefits that we hope to gain from Azure Arc? Can you explain this a little bit?
Thank you so much, Junaid. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Today, if you look at many of our customers' environments, it's clear that they continue to grow in complexity with influx of new technologies and platform investments. Applications are running across in a diverse infrastructure with data center, a local hosting provider, branch offices, as well as multi-cloud. Besides that, development teams using different development tools, language and frameworks, as well as approach like open source, Kubernetes, and DevOps. At this point, they have key questions like how to govern and secure all the resources seamlessly, regardless of where they are running, how to bring cloud innovation to existing infrastructure, how to modernize traditional local data center with new cloud infrastructure architecture model, how to extend compute and AI to the edge to unlock new business scenarios. That is where Azure Arc comes in. Microsoft Azure expand hybrid offerings with Azure Arc, which is a set of technologies that brings Azure cloud management capabilities and services to virtually anywhere, any environment, which are on premises, edge, and multi-cloud. There are two main aspects. The first one is Azure Arc-enabled infrastructure. Today, millions of Azure resources are organized, governed, and secured daily by customers using Azure management tools and features. Arc-enabled infrastructure extends those proven Azure inventory management, monitoring, governance, and security capabilities to all Linux and Windows servers, as well as Kubernetes clusters on any infrastructure across on-premises, multi-cloud, and edge, all be connected to Azure and managed through a single control plane, which is Azure Portal. Finally, Azure Arc makes it easier to implement cloud security practices across environments with centralized role-based access control and security policies. By using Azure Arc-enabled servers, you can now manage and operate all of your IT resources consistently and at scale wherever they reside, from Azure as a single control plane. The second aspect is Arc-enabled services. With Arc-enabled services, our customers have the flexibility to deploy fully managed Azure services anywhere, on-premises, edge, even in other public clouds, so they can take the advantage of Azure innovation benefits everywhere, such as scalability, fast deployment, and always up to date. What's awesome is that you can initiate, manage, monitor, and secure these deployments from Azure Portal. Today, we have Arc-enabled data services, application services, and machine learning, and this portfolio will grow in the future with additional services. This is a short summary of how Azure Arc will help to our customers and partners in global.
Thank you, Mr. Great summary. So to you, Sönmez, CocSistem is already a very strong service integrator, systems integrator, and hosting service provider with its own DC. But now you are expanding to Equinix data center in Istanbul with Azure Stack HCI and Azure Arc platform. So with this new establishment, how can CocSistem help all the industries and customers in Turkey?
Well, actually, all industries have one challenge in common, and that is the data privacy issues and the regulations coming along. Turkish authorities, likewise their counterparts in Europe, are preparing regulations similar to GDPR regulations, and that is the ultimate reason driving the customers to review their cloud strategies. Actually, hot topic in this issue is that the personal data, crossing national borders, and Turkish authorities are eager to restrict this international transfer, and they are issuing big penalties. I mean, really big penalties to firms that are breaking this rule. So, consequently, firms operating in all industries are carefully restructuring their cloud infrastructure and trying to make sure that especially the personal data belonging to their customers or belonging to their employees stays inside the country.
So, Firuze, the initial question is why Azure Arc is important for CocSistem, and drilling down into Arc for Data Services or Azure Arc enabled data services. You executed the POC in OPET. What made OPET a good candidate for an Azure Arc enabled data services POC? How did you choose them?
Azure has an ever-expanding solution and services portfolio, and we believe that all our customers should be able to enjoy advantages provided by these services. However, some of our customers may hesitate to upload their data abroad per their policies or to comply with GDPR terms. And Azure Arc and our services will become an important solution in modernization of these applications our customers are developing, and OPET is one of them. OPET was developing a new app that are focused on their customers, and they wanted to use Azure services, but since they needed to keep their data locally in Turkey, they wanted to try and use Azure Arc enabled data services. So that's why we joined the forces with Microsoft and worked on these services with OPET.
Thank you, Firuze. And again, Firuze, does Azure Arc enabled data services help you differentiate your business from the competition you have?
Definitely it does. We are the first partner which prepared this environment to serve services in the region and of course in the Turkey, and we managed to create the first success story with OPET in the region. So I think that this will definitely ensure our competitive advantage in the market, since that we are already accredited for Arc solutions, and we are the only one in Turkey and few in the region.
Thank you, Firuze. So, Mesut, about the cloud native approach, how does Azure Stack HCI and AKS on Azure Stack HCI fit into these use cases that you face on the field? And what advantages do you realize with this Kubernetes environment?
Sure. Azure Stack HCI is our new hyper-converged infrastructure operating system delivered as an Azure service that provides latest updates, major or minor. So customers can deploy and run Windows and Linux virtual machines in their own data center or at the edge on HCI. It also supports extending on-premise data center to the Azure cloud services such as Azure Monitor, Azure Backup, Azure Site Recovery, and Azure Security Center. Azure Kubernetes service on Azure Stack HCI is an on-premise implementation of Azure Kubernetes container platform that's from public Azure, which automates running containerized applications at scale, making it quicker to get started hosting Linux and Windows containers in customers' own data center and edge sites. So customers can build Azure consistent new cloud infrastructure in their own data center with Azure Stack HCI, so they can modernize their data center and run cloud native applications on-premises while taking advantage of existing hardware investments and meeting regulatory compliance and data sovereignty. Let's go through the high-level platform architecture end-to-end to understand where Azure Stack HCI and Azure Arc-enabled services fit in. When you look at this architecture, there is a hardware ecosystem of our close partners, hardware partners, that are building various form factors of and various performance and compute and network capable underlying infrastructure or hyper-converged infrastructure that's validated by Microsoft. On top of that, we lay down Azure Stack HCI, our operating system platform, to run both containerized Windows.NET as well as Linux-based applications and virtual machines on hypervisor. Then customers can deploy AKS on HCI, so they can use the same benefits of public cloud AKS within on-premises. This is the same AKS tuned by Microsoft run on Azure Stack HCI. So once they deploy HCI, next step is deploy Arc-enabled services on top of it. Typically, customers will deploy this in a connected mode because Azure Stack HCI requires connected to Azure Cloud. As you see in the architecture, the container platform that runs as well as our customers can deploy Arc-enabled data application, machine learning, that's all over the solution that comes from running Arc-enabled services on Azure Stack HCI, running AKS on premises. Last but not least, we are bringing Azure Virtual Desktop, the modern virtual desktop infrastructure experience on premises on HCI, including exclusive Windows 10 multi-session capabilities, unified admin experience through Azure Portal. So starting from Azure Stack HCI to Arc-enabled services, all the support provided by Microsoft. This is one of the biggest advantage of this platform. This is summary of how Azure Stack HCI and Azure Arc fit in an architecture.
Thank you, Mesut. So, next question comes to you both, Sönmez and Firuze. You already released a success story on Opet. That was on Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes platform. Now you are building a replica, kind of more granular environment on AKS, on Azure Stack HCI as the main platform. So what additional benefits do you expect to receive and provide to your customers? How will this affect your ability to, let's say, save time, maybe reduce costs, improve processes, or even increase the ability of your teams to focus strategically?
With HCI, AKS on HCI, and with Azure Arc, we can see a single pane of glass on Azure portal, and this is what we receive actually. We will be easily managing our whole environment that are running on Azure. And also, I believe that our customers will improve their processes and reduce their costs, since they will be able to monitor or see their whole structure, including both on-premise, I mean on Turkey, in Turkey, and our abroad resources, so they can reduce their cost by minimizing the needed workloads as they wish.
And I believe that as the regulations will get tighter, we will see more clients coming to this platform.
Thank you both. And Mesut, from a company perspective, can you describe the value proposition that they will gain with Azure Arc and Azure Stack HCI? Maybe you can add AKS as well.
Absolutely. Customers are getting many more benefits of Arc-enabled services, such as for Arc-enabled data services, where it always evergreen in SQL. That means no need to SQL version upgrade. There will be no end of support. It's updated, patched. If there are some failures, this can be central managed from Azure portal. They can set policies and truly start delivering databases as a service for their customers or their departments in their own data center. From AKS HCI and Arc-enabled service perspective, This really enables our customers to take the same architecture in public Azure for the application and bring that to their local data center or their edge locations, such as branch offices or factory locations, without doing any architecture redesign to run their cloud native applications. This very pretty cool feature of Azure Arc enabled services. Also, they can collect all the logs, see the inventory of all of their data services, whether they are running on Azure public cloud on premises or in a third-party cloud using Azure SaaS management, monitoring, and identity and security solutions. The most exciting thing is that they built in pay-as-you-go model, which means they pay only for they use. They will not need to buy too many third-party management, monitoring, and security products to provide services to their infrastructure, which brings huge saving as total cost of ownership. Besides all, they can comply with their data compliance and data sovereignty with Azure Arc-enabled services. While Arc-enabled services are great on any upstream Kubernetes and even better on validated Kubernetes distributions that we are working with third parties, it is the best with Azure Stack HCI, and AKS is running on top of it. That's because it's hybrid by default, it's secure by default, and it has been fine-tuned for the performance on HCI. Finally, and the most importantly, customers can run virtual machines, containerized applications, all in one platform. So our customers see important savings from using same platform infrastructure to run both. So it's hybrid by default, Arc-enabled, so customers can use all the great benefits of Azure management and bringing all the supported Azure managed services to AKS HCI. This is the summary of Arc-enabled services and Azure Stack HCI platform value proposition for our customers. As a summary, Azure Arc-enabled services works best on AKS HCI, and we are doing and building this environment with CocSistem at Equinix Data Center.
Thank you so much, Mesut. And the last one again comes to you both, Sönmez and Firuze. If we define this a kind of evolution, all these processes, all this transformation. So what's your next step in this evolution? And lastly, when do you hope to deploy all these solutions?
We first designed our Arc environment according to OpEx capacity. But since we need to provide service to multiple customers, we are redesigning a larger environment. And we want to combine our service with other elements such as availability and security. Speaking of HCI, we are very excited to be able to serve all these services that Mesut just mentioned. And we hope to launch our services on the first quarter of 2022.
And we'll believe that the demand will increase for Azure services and platform. And as Firuze said, we are excited to deploy as many customers as we can to the platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sönmez, Firuze, Mesut. And
Thank you so much.
To all, have a great event. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.